Welcome to the Soul Forge. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the Soul Forge podcast. Hope everybody's doing wonderfully and everything's going great this week for you guys. Everything here is okay as well for me. Today at the Forge, we're going to be hammering away at anger. And since it's such a big topic, we're going to just stick to the styles and a few pieces of information about it. What is anger? Well, it's an emotion involving a strong, uncomfortable, and hostile response to a perceived provocation, hurt, or a threat. What does that mean? It means you've got your back up because you think there's a provocation, somebody's trying to hurt you in some way, or there's a threat to your well-being or the well-being of somebody you love. So your emotions are running red, as they say. You've got a hostile response ready to go. You're going to show them what's going on, and something that this causes actually is any kind of an emotional reaction like this definitely impacts the body. When you're angry, your heart rate increases, you're going to have elevated blood pressure, you've got adrenaline pumping, and I'm sure you've all felt that. You get angry, that's when you're all hot under the collar, your face goes red, your heart's just beating as fast as it can go. You're looking all around and you're like, what's going on here? I'm so angry. And of course, what it is, actually, it's anger is essentially a protective mechanism to cover up fear, hurt, or sadness. Really, that's what it is. You're fearful of something, so you're gonna just go angry. You're hurt by somebody, and that's natural. If somebody hurts you, you're gonna get angry about it, and you're sad. Well, if you want to cover up the sadness, you cover it up with anger, because anger is that emotion that it goes from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, right? So that's normal automatic response. I find actually a lot of times, and this is the big joke, the whole hangry thing. You're hungry, so your body's not in tip-top shape. You've got your stomach churning at itself. Maybe you haven't had enough to drink. You're dehydrated, and everything's just pissing you off. It's making you upset. You're angry. So hangry. That's the big joke over the last few years, but I can tell you it's true. Bishop's mom used to say, hey, calm down, go get a sandwich. And it was true, especially on the weekend. If I started doing something around the house and I hadn't had breakfast or a coffee yet, say it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I don't sleep in on the weekends. I get up for work about 6:30, and I don't sleep much past that at all, even on a weekend when I don't have to work. So I'm up at the latest 7:30. So say I'm doing yard work or hanging pictures or building something, and it's like 11 o'clock and I haven't eaten yet because I just wanted to get at it, because I find that's with me. If I don't get at it first thing in the morning, if I have a chance to sit down and relax and have a coffee, I'm not going to be productive. So I just get at it first thing in the morning, and I get productive and I do a lot of things. But unfortunately, the cost of that is that I haven't eaten, and so yes, anger. So the Snickers commercial is true too. Oh, you're not feeling like yourself? Have a Snickers. And I find that's true. I don't actually do it with Snickers, but yeah. Put a little food in my belly, give me 20 minutes to calm down, and the anger subsides. It's totally irrational, and I see it all the time, especially at work. We work at the post office and we get up early, and a lot of people don't have breakfast, especially on a Monday. That's the worst thing, because Mondays are our busiest days because you get all the mail from the weekend and you have all this stuff, and you've had your 2 days off, and you come into work and there's trays and trays of mail, all kinds of parcels. And Monday's different because the rest of the week, usually the mail's pretty, well, not light, I wouldn't say, and it averages and changes all the time. But Monday's always the heaviest, always the busiest. A lot of people don't have breakfast. They're always bitchy. So, yeah, have something to eat. It'll save you. And how do we express anger? Well, there's several different ways. There's your facial expression, My mom had a good one. She would lock her teeth together, and her chin would have a funny dimple in it, and her eyes would go all cross, and she didn't even have to say anything. You just knew that you better watch out and do what she said, or else there'd be big trouble. Body language will do it. You might have your back up. That's actually something that animals will do. They'll make loud sounds like snorting noises or something. They'll try to look larger than they are. They'll puff up. You've seen cats when they're angry or scared. They'll the hair running down the middle of their back will puff up and their tail will go straight. And yeah, they're angry and they're hurt and they're scared and they're going to get you. So they try to look bigger. Dogs do that. Yeah, all kinds of animals do that. They might stare at you. The dogs do that a lot. As a mailman, I can tell you lots of stories about dogs. They can be the friendliest dogs when you're not wearing your mail uniform, or when you're not going up to their house, or when they're tied up. They're super angry and protective of the house. But if you don't have a uniform on, or they're not tied up, and you go up to them, usually 9 times out of 10 they're friendly. But no, when they're tied up or you're going towards their house with the big mail bag on, they'll stare you down and they bare their teeth and they'll bark. And we actually just had a guy come in called the Dogter, telling us a little bit about animals and dogs in particular, and how they think it's a game, these animals, because you walk up to their house to put some mail in the box and they bark at you and then you take off. And you do that day after day after day, and they think that they're protecting the house and they're scaring you off. So if they're loose one day and you happen to come up to their house, they're going to bite you. I've been bitten before. That happens. It happens a few times a year at our office in particular. I think there's 20 of us, plus the casuals and the relief carriers and the truck drivers and so on. But yeah. Probably more in the summer, I would say, as well. Dog bites are not good. And of course, they'll bite us, and then we get angry at them, and we'll try to kick them, and that's the worst thing we can do, apparently, as well. So yeah, that's what animals do. They make loud sounds, they look bigger, they stare, and they'll bare their teeth, or they'll bark, or whatever. So that's body language. And there's acts of aggression where they'll nip at you. And people have these same acts of aggression as well, of course, right? They might try to throw a punch at you, or throw a plate across the room, or break something. So that's what happens. And what another thing with this whole anger thing, you can't really tell how angry you are, because anger causes a loss in your self-monitoring and objective observability.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Now, what does that mean? It means you don't have any control over what you're doing or what you're thinking when you're angry. And from my own experience, it's true. When do I get angry? Not very often, actually. Mostly when I'm driving behind drivers. I think I swear more in my car when I'm driving than I do any other time. But just regularly, I find myself saying the F word under my breath quite a bit. I've gotten super angry at my brothers, especially when I was younger, because they did something, or they broke something, or they weren't letting me do what I wanted, or whatever it was. I can't even remember. But what happens is my brain shuts down, and I'll try yelling, and the words that are coming out of my mouth aren't even making sense. They'll be jumbled up, they'll be backwards. There's no logical sense to anything that I'm saying, and then that makes me even angrier, and it's just like kind of like a feedback loop. So when you're angry, you have no idea what you're doing. And this brings me to the 5 styles of anger. Okay, so there's 5 common styles of expressing this anger. When you're feeling angry, you can choose any style of anger that you'd like, but if you know what your current style is, that's the best way to choose a healthier way to manage your anger. Okay, so this list that I found is, the first one is called the bottle and cap method of expressing anger. It's a very passive style. Although you may get angry, you continually push the feelings away and have difficulty expressing them. In fact, you may not even allow yourself to express the anger at all. So you become so skilled in this style that you don't even recognize when you are angry. So that's, I would call that repression. You don't even allow yourself to feel it, so you don't know you're feeling angry, and you never express it, so it's just there simmering under the surface all the time. Which leads us to style number 2, called bottle and leak. Your anger is often expressed in a very passive-aggressive manner. You also tend to bury your feelings of anger, but eventually those feelings surface. You want people to know that you're angry, but you choose very indirect ways of telling them. And I don't know about you guys, but you see that a lot on Facebook. Passive-aggressive things. Like, I heard you had a great party. I wasn't invited, but I bet everybody had fun. You know, that kind of thing. Everybody knows what you're doing, and you know what you're doing, and it's just kind of annoying. So let's go to type number 3. Bottle and blow. You bury your feelings of anger, which eventually build and build until they can't be contained anymore, and you explode! You may find that after much building up of anger, the last straw that precedes the explosion may be something rather small. When you finally do express anger, although not always, it may come out in a rather aggressive way. So you just, some small little thing finally just sets you right off. It was somebody cut you off in traffic. Somebody used the milk at the office so you couldn't have any milk in your coffee. This, that, or the other thing. And then finally the printer jams and the paper won't come out. And you just throw the printer across the room and you get fired or something. So that's bottle and blow. Number 4 is dynamite. This style of expressing anger involves no build-up. Your immediate reaction is to explode, and your anger might often be expressed in an aggressive manner. You try to use your anger to control the situation, but often find yourself losing control. And luckily, I don't know a lot of people like that, where you just go along and, oh, how's your day? Ah! And they explode at you because whatever was bothering them, and somebody finally talked to them and they exploded. I've seen it a few times, but it's pretty rare, so that's good. I don't know if you guys have seen that at all. And according to this list, number 5 is the best way to express your anger. It's called assertiveness. It's a healthier way to express your anger. It involves an open, honest, and direct expression of your needs. You are decisive and self-assured as you express yourself, which gives you a sense of healthy control of the situation. This is the most effective way of managing your anger. So you talk about it, and you be productive. And I guess it's not a blow-up. It's there's no outward negative reaction. You're being logical about it, and that's nice. From my research, what I found is that anger is not necessarily a negative emotion.
Feelings aren't positive and negative. They simply exist. It's what we do with those feelings that becomes good or bad.
There are no negative emotions. It's just how we perceive it and what we choose to do with those feelings that define us or control us or whatnot. So anger has a functional value, because if you see something wrong and realize that it requires changing, your righteous anger is going to cause you to make a positive impact in the world.
Feeling angry about an injustice could lead someone to take a positive action to correct it.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to hit somebody or break something. It just means that your righteous indignation, your anger at something that's happening in the world, is going to make you stop, think about things, and see how you can make a difference. And that's important. So that's very cool. So that's really all I have to say about what anger is and how to express it and the causes and that kind of thing. There is a whole pile more we could talk about this. There's all kinds of articles and whatnot. Maybe one day in the future we'll get into that, but I just wanted to briefly put anger on the forge, put it through the flames, and see what we could come up with. Just a little bit of information here for you guys. So I have some big news, actually. I told you guys before that I do a different podcast, and it's been going for about just over 3.5 years. And this past week, I was finally contacted. There's a company out there who said they would be my sponsor. And all that means is that if you go ahead and purchase something from their website, get their product, and put in my offer code, you get a discount on their product, and I get a kickback of some kind. It's not very much. It's mere pennies on the dollar, apparently, but every little bit helps. It costs a lot of money to run these websites and so on and so forth. So if you guys all go to wearedapperties.com and put in offer code RUSTED, RUSTED, then that'll be good for everybody involved. You'll get a discount. I'll get some kind of reward eventually, and you get to buy a nice knit tie. So go check it out, wearedapperties.com, I haven't had a chance to look over the whole website myself, but it looks like there's a lot of cool ties out there. So Christmas is coming up, so why not get a bit of a deal for yourself and help support the Soul Forge podcast? That's always definitely appreciated. And if you could also go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever they're calling it these days and leave a 5-star review and a rating, that would be fantastic. Trying to get the word out about the show. Please share the links with family and friends. Tell everybody you know about the podcast. soulforgepodcast.com. It's definitely appreciated. So thanks for swinging by and listening. And if you'd like to send an email, get some feedback, get a nice community going, I can't wait for that. So thanks for everything, folks. And remember, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Soul Forge. I hope you found some value in it. To contact the show, please email soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at soulforgepod. We are Soul Forge Podcast on Facebook, and you can find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. Please spread the Soul Forge word by rating and reviewing us in iTunes and by telling everyone you know. Thanks for stopping by the Forge.